Hey, I got a story to tell. That's still really hot. Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It is me, Mr. Mario, and yes, I am running my fan right now, so if that makes any background noise, I'm sorry, you're gonna hear it. I just got home tonight. It's really hot outside right now because it's going from winter to spring and all that, but I felt like making this video, and for some reason I just felt like talking to you all directly on this video. I have probably like 5 hours worth of gameplay footage that I can commentate over, but I've been doing a lot of commentaries lately. They still need to be released and everything, but I've been doing a lot of them, and some people were saying that they wanted more vlog type videos, so I mean, if you like this type of setup, let me know. But anyways, I had a story for you all. So this is going to go back for a few years. It's even going to come to stuff that's right now. But this is going to be about somebody I know in college. And I'm actually good friends with him. But this is pretty much when showing off in college and showing out and everything goes wrong. Now, this isn't about like anything physical, like anything tangible, anything like that. No, this is about classes and grades and everything. Now, first off, I'm just going to say, if you're anybody who has not been to college yet, or you're coming out of high school, middle school, whatever it is, you're planning on going to college, yes, it's fun, yes, there's partying, all that stuff, but there's also going to be work too. All the movies that you see about college and all that, they show, you know, the not work, not hard, not late night studying aspect of college. And the people that do end up doing stuff like that are either one, super geniuses, or two, just do not care about school at all. I am neither one of those two. I care about school and I am not a genius by any means, so I kind of do have to spend time studying in order to get, you know, decent to good grades in my classes. So that's really how it goes. Kind of for anything in life, if you want something, you kind of have to work for it. By kind of, I mean you really do have to work for it. But anyways, this goes back to my computer science days. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, I was originally a computer science major. I started in college here, fall of 2011. That was a few months after, so just right after the summer that I graduated high school. What ended up happening was I decided to go into computer science. I didn't really look at anything else. I was looking at engineering. I thought all of college was pretty much engineering. Like, that was my mindset on there. And so I liked computer things. I always tinker around with computers, gadgets, electronics, whatever it was, and I was, you know, pretty decent with them. Now, I was told you can either do computer science or computer engineering. Computer engineering is for hardware, computer science is for software. I said, I'm better with software, I'll do computer science. Well, all the stuff you see me do on here, on the channel, you know, on the side, anything like that, that has nothing to do with computer science. Computer science is all coding. That's all there is. So I tell people, I have seen people who are brilliant coders who can't install a stick of RAM properly, and I've seen people who can build amazing PCs and do, you know, awesome exploits of systems and solder like a madman, but they can't even do a print statement in, you know, Java or any other type of language. So the only things that coding and computers have in common, well, like, you know, messing with stuff like this, like the stuff I do on this channel, the only thing that has in common with coding is that I have to use a computer for both of them, because you're not going to write out code, obviously. I mean, people had to, and it was horrible, but you're not going to do that outside of a class or, you know, since, you know, the 70s or 80s. Anyways, this is what ended up happening. So there were a few people that I ended up befriending. I befriended a lot of people in my college career here, but there's one person who, I'm not going to be saying names, of course, and I still know him, and for all I know, he might be watching this video. If you are, hey, what's up? But essentially, I met him, and he seemed like a super genius with everything. Now, this guy, he had all of his fun. This was freshman year. Like, you know, he was out, he was having fun with friends all the time. He was playing a ton of games. League of Legends was the big one. That was a big GPA dropper my freshman year. I only played League once, and it wasn't my thing, so I uninstalled it. But there were people who skipped class to play League, who cut into sleep time to play League, who played League just to play League. Like, that was the thing. And there were actually people in my classes who would play League of Legends, and when the teachers finally got pissed at them for doing that for weeks on end, they just stopped coming to class. So what could they do? They would play League of Legends outside of the classroom during class time, so they didn't attend class. Because in case you don't know, there are many lectures in college where attendance is optional. I don't recommend taking the optional approach, but there are many classes you're going to take in your college career that don't require an attendance. There's nothing officially put on there. That doesn't mean the teacher's not noticing. Anyways, what ended up happening was this guy, he was friends with a few people in his own group of friends, and I ended up befriending them as well too. I became good friends with them, and one of them in there, he even ended up switching majors with me. I switched over to management information systems a little bit past a year of going into college. I ended up switching fall of 2012, and I officially started my MIS degree in spring of 2013. So that's how everything went with that. But anyways, as I said, this guy I thought he was a genius. He just knew everything because he was playing a ton of games, he was hanging out with people all the time, and he had insanely good grades. Like, I think he had 4.0s, like 4.0 grade point averages for both semesters of his freshman year in college. And here is the thing, he was the worst kind of smart. And when I say worst kind of smart, I mean the best and worst kind. If you are this kind of smart, you're the best kind, but to me, you're the worst kind, because I'll get into it. As I said, it seemed like he didn't really have to put that much effort into studying. He was having all of his fun and everything. There was times he didn't even do homework and he was getting A's in classes, while as I'm one of those people, I will work my ass off sometimes and I will still not get a very good grade. It's almost like there's like a lingering presence above me. It's just like, hey, that test that you studied a lot for and you know that you need a good grade in this class? Let's go ahead and give you a C on that class. How does that sound? Or test, I guess. But what ended up happening was he was doing all that stuff. He had his fun. He didn't have to pay that much attention to classes to actually get his things done. This was engineering. I mean, freshman, mind you, but still, he was doing, engineering, physics, all that other stuff, and I think he was doing engineering, physics, but point being, he was taking classes that I was having a lot of difficulty with, he was having ease with. Like, calculus and coding classes were the hard ones, at least for me. Now, the first real coding class we did was Introduction to Java, where it is nothing but Java programming, and at the very end, you do a tiny bit of C#, because C#, in case you don't know, is kind of like the bastardized version of Java, except everyone likes it. Like, it doesn't have any memory leaks or anything like that, and the syntax is much better, and you have Visual Studio that you can code in as opposed to Java, where Java was made for a remote control, okay? That explains how much there is behind it. I'm not saying that Java's bad, but I'm just saying, started off with a remote control, that was it. So what ends up happening is we were in Java class, and we had these classes together, but it was especially during the end of our second semester. He was just breezing through the tests and all that stuff, like all the tests he hated. Here's the thing, he hated writing out things, because you had to write out full programs, you had to write out code, like I'm talking like, I have to like really stress it and all that. No, like with a pen, you had to write out with a pen and paper programs. You couldn't debug them, you couldn't check syntax, you couldn't do anything like that. You couldn't. You couldn't, because you have a pen and paper right there, you don't have a compiler or anything like that. I hated those tests. I don't believe code should be taught like that in a test environment, but whatever, at least I'm out of there, thank God. Anyways, what ended up happening was he was complaining about that, and I always did poorly on those tests. He always did very, very well. He just didn't want to write out the stuff, but that was also kind of because he was lazy. But going back to the reason why he was the worst kind of smart, to me he was the worst kind of smart because he bragged about his smarts and all that. Like, anytime, people talk about grades, he chimed in with his grades like it was a competition. Like, somebody said, oh, I have a 93 in this class. He'd come and he'd be like, you have a 93? I have a 94.8. It says like, okay, they're both a 3. Well, I have a 94.8. I have 1.8% higher than you in that class. He would just do stuff like that. Like, he was cocky about it. He was completely cocky, completely arrogant about it, and he knew it. And the main thing is, it's because he was doing really, really well in high school. From what I know, he did really stellar in high school. He had already, taken hard class. Like, he took calculus. He had calculus experience in high school. In high school, he also coded in Java for 3 years. So for a one-semester class in college, he had 3 years of experience on top of that going into it. And I'm not saying, again, I'm kind of generalizing Java here, but Java, at least in a classroom setting, when you're coding in Java, most of the time, it's just going to be essentially problem solving, putting together pieces of a puzzle. You have something, it's unsolved, you just have to solve it. That's essentially what you're doing with your Java program. So if you can decently learn coding and you have really good problem solving skills, Java in college is going to be your thing. Like, you should have no issue wrapping your head around it unless you have a really bad professor. And that's kind of how he was. He was decent at solving problems and everything, but the main thing is, this plays a heavy part into it, he had that 3 years of Java experience, which there's a lot of stuff you also cannot do with Java. So he kind of almost maxed that out at one point too. What I'm trying to say is he had that going on. And then I remember even for calculus, it was me and, you know, his group of friends. We were all studying and everything. And what ended up happening was he ended up coming along. He tagged along to study. I think he called one of them and they're just like, oh man, why did you invite him? We didn't have to have him here. So there was all that going on, which I thought was funny. But then it was horrible because I was trying to study for my Calc 2, which was the hardest calc. I was trying to study for Calc 2, and the whole time he's being distracting and everything, and then like he was like trying to compete with, you know, other people. Like we had one friend who was solving problems on the board, and then he would come over and he would try and like start solving it as well as fast as he can, and like just doing stuff like that. Like he made a game out of everything. That is how, you know, smart I was thinking he was this freshman year. So he was going through all of that, and then again he was even, you know, comparing all that other stuff. And I remember that was the second to last test we took, but then even when we took the test, like afterwards, it was an exhausting test. I was done. I was so discouraged after that test. Everyone said it was hard. He comes over, he's like, man, that test was fun. That was such an easy test. Like, I can't believe how easy that was. And then he was even telling us, he's like, yeah, you know, like, wait, you all were freaking out about it? No, like, I was sitting there, I was taking the test, and then at one point, you know, I'm just sitting there, you know, I had, like, my foot on the chair next to me, and then, you know, I'm sitting there, and I took the test, and then I just kind of, you know, I looked around, and I was just checking people out, and then I saw, you know, a person look at me, I was like, oh, hey, what's up? And then, after about 20 minutes, I was like, wait a minute, I've spent 20 minutes doing nothing. Oh, okay, I'm in a test, I guess I should do this test. So then he was doing stuff like that. So what ended up happening was, you know, he did well in there, he was doing well in Java and all those other things, but then what ended up happening was he got A's in there, of course. But as I said, he was bragging the entire time about it, and, you know, he was good at what he did. What happened? You know, summer comes, summer goes, then we end up having sophomore year. Our second hardcore coding class was C#. Now, this is a noticeable weed out class in the CS curriculum because it's just the teacher and the way he taught things and just the projects we had to do, they were so labor intensive and just like, I mean, I showed people who were working in the field on this stuff. And they were just like, yeah, this is horrible. Like, you shouldn't be working on stuff like this. And that is where it started. His decline started coming down a little bit because we kind of found out he couldn't really code that well, was the thing. And now you might be asking, didn't I just talk about him coding super well in Java? I did. But what ended up happening was we found out Java was essentially, you know, as I said, I mentioned it was kind of like a game, putting puzzle pieces together and all that. He had maxed out Java, essentially, in 3 years. He worked at it a ton, so when he had that Java class, it was easy. But he didn't really mess around with any other language. When he came to C#, which is essentially a cleaned up version of Java, he didn't want to learn it, and then when he was learning it, he didn't want to debug his code when there was stuff wrong with his code, because he's one of those good programmers in Java, where if you give him something, he'll code it up. You know, he compiles it, there might be an error or two, he fixes it up, there you go, you're done. But then when it came to C#, he didn't want to learn it. He didn't want to learn to debug anything like that. Like, he was more like this. New language, what the hell is this? I don't understand any of this bullshit. Okay, whatever. I'm playing video games. Okay, I really hope my downstairs neighbors do not hate me for throwing that book violently behind me. I didn't think it would make that big of a thud. Anyways, what ended up happening, as I said, was, you know, when it came to this, he was just not really into it. In addition to that, he really didn't have his parents breathing down his back this time, so he was able to get eased up and everything, because his first year in college, apparently from what I know, his parents were down his back the entire time, you know, making sure he got this grade, he got this grade, he got an A in this class, he got an A on this test. You know, they were checking on him all the time. Then when they saw he had a very good year, they said, you know what? You're okay living by yourself, we can ease up on you, that's it. And he was just, you know, like when you have, like, you know, like a big dog or something, you're walking a big dog, and you have a really tight grip on that leash, and you just give it a little bit of slack, and the dog just goes off running. That was pretty much what happened with my friend. He went off running, but then, unfortunately, he's one of those types of people where if he sees that he's not doing good at something, he just becomes really discouraged with it. And he's also one of the types of people where I'm sure there's a lot of people even watching my video who are like this, but he's also one of those types of people where he likes to skip class a decent amount. He skipped a ton of class freshman year. He was able to do that just fine, but he couldn't do it any other time. And every single semester, what he does is he does pretty well with attendance. Then a few weeks in, he skips one class, and once he skips one class, any class, it doesn't matter what it is, he just chronically starts skipping classes, which I do not do. I don't recommend either. But I'm just going to say this. If you're skipping classes in college, think about how much money you're wasting per class period that you're not going to, because that's just money that's gone. That's all there is to it. Essentially, at the end of it all, he's still in computer science, but he's going to be here for a bit longer than us, and at the same time, he's really doubting his whole approach to this and everything. Like, he is wanting to do a different type of major, specifically MIS or something else, that my friends and I are doing, but he is not liking computer science anymore because it's kind of getting to the point where he is reaching his peak a little bit with it. And it was funny, the reason why I thought of this was because the other day, I believe it was this week, we were all talking. It was him and some other friends and I. We were talking, and we did bring up freshman year. And he's like, oh yeah, freshman year. That's when I had to teach you all how to code. And we're like, yeah. Well, at least, my other friends, I'm not the coder, but they're just like, yeah, you taught us how to code, and now we're the ones who have to teach you how to code. So that's kind of how it is. So what am I trying to say here at the end of this really long video and really long story? Don't be that horrible smart guy in college. Don't get the big ego. Don't show off your grades or anything like that, because I'll say this, the people I know who are truly smart, they downplay their grades, they're humble about it, they don't show off anything like that. The people who do show off with their grades, who brag about them, and especially, as I said, the people who really compare them to other people and almost make fun of them in a way, those are the people you're going to see who struggle later on. And don't slack off in college either, because as I was saying, this guy, unfortunately, his freshman year, it worked. He didn't have to go to class that much. He was able to play a lot of games. He got all A's in his classes, at least from what I know. He did extremely well in his classes. He didn't have any issues because he was pretty much living off high school talent, but that didn't really work, after freshman year, and that's when college actually starts getting really important, specifically if you're on track your junior year and beyond, because that's when you really get into the nitty-gritty of your major, whatever it is, and this if you're going to a four-year university. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you like these types of videos, let me know, and I'll probably consider doing more. I'm just kind of doing this as a spur-of-the-moment thing because I just got home, and I'm doing this as a break from studying because I have a major test tomorrow, so yeah, not really looking forward to it, but I think I'll be okay at it. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario, signing off real this time. Later, everyone.